Oh, yeah, pipe smokers. Haha. It's that time again. Yeah. It is a Tuesday night smoke together. Yeah. And I'm back to blending. Yep. So I'm Paul Gilson. This is the Paul Gilson YouTube channel, aka Paul the Pipe Guy. Yeah. And so what I've been messing around with here for a couple, 2, 3 hours tonight is I didn't know whether I wanted to make a Balkan blend or an English blend. Both Balkan and English blends have Latakia in them, but the Balkan blends tend to have a lot more Oriental in them and so forth. And so as I was making this mixology, I'm tasting it and I'm like, not liking it. And so, there you can see my scratch sheet there, all my calculations. Blending is mathematical, but it's also, you have to write what your final blend is, or you're not going to remember what you did, and you're going to kick yourself in the butt because you're going to be like, this is like really great. I love this, but what did I do? So grab your favorite pipe, grab your favorite blend, and grab your favorite beverage. Let's have a smoke together. And I want to talk to you about a little blending that I'm doing tonight. I started out and I looked up, what's in a Balkan blend, and so I kind of made up some stuff. This originally started in a much smaller jar, an 8-ounce jar, and now we're into a quart mason jar that's halfway full pretty much, because I didn't like what was going on, and I would mix a little here, mix a little there, run the calculations. So basically, here's how you run your calculations. Start out with something that is 10 parts. And when I say 10 parts, take like 1 tablespoon, all right? Start out with what you think you want to make. So what I did is I took like 3 scoops of Latakia, 6 scoops of Red Virginia, 4 scoops of Oriental, a half a scoop of Perique, and I was like, shook it all up in the jar, and then I was like, I don't know, I don't really like that. So without boring you to death, I did like 4 different recipes on this side, and then I finally came up with one. I haven't smoked it yet, but we're going to try it, all right? Traditionally, an English blend is 50% Virginia, 40% Latakia, and 10% Oriental, okay? And so what I did is I started out with 10 parts. I ended up, by the time everything was all said and done, and because every time you add something, you got to add parts and do the division, I ended up with 25 parts. So in other words, to really clarify that, 25 parts. So out of all 4 tobaccos that I'm using for this blend, I've got 24 of those scoops, okay? And what I ended up with out of 25 parts is I ended up with 12 parts of Red Virginia, which is 48% of my blend. The reason why I chose the Red Virginia instead of the Bright Virginia, and I'm using all good quality stuff. This is Cornell and Deal Bright Virginia. I didn't use that in this blend. I actually used some TS1R Red Virginia Ribbon by Sutliff. Okay, that's a blending. It's pure Red Virginia. It's not blended with anything else. Okay. Next thing I did is I used pure Cornell and Deal Izmir Turkish. Okay. Third thing I did is I used pure Cornell and Deal Latakia, Cyprian Latakia. Okay, so the way you figure it out, all right, so I ended up with 12 parts of Red Virginia, which is 48%. And you may say, well, how'd you come up with that, Paul? Well, it's easy. I kept track of how many parts of each blend I put in, okay? So I've got 25 parts total between 4 blends. You just take, I got 12 parts of Red Virginia. You take 12 and divide it by 25. You come up with 48%. I've got 8 parts of Latakia. You take 8, divide it by 25, and I've got 32% Latakia. 4 parts Oriental, which is a little more than I wanted to go. I wanted to try to stay around 10%, but we're 4 parts. Okay, so I took 4, divided by 25, which is the total number of scoops that I have of all 4 blends, and I come up with 16%. And then I did 1 part Perique. So 1 scoop of Perique, 1 divided by 25 says that I have 4% Perique in there. So basically, you take all of the number of scoops. You got to keep track of them. All the number of scoops. And what I did is I adjusted this. So I didn't like it. So I'm like, all right, it needs 4 more scoops of Virginia. So now I went from 20 to 24. Okay. And then I took that number. I just did the division. I'm like, okay, now I got a total of, 11 parts Red Virginia divided by 24, and it gave me the percentage. So anyways, I hope you get that. All right. I started out with 10 parts and then adjusted it there, adjusted it there, adjusted it there. And I have a blend that I think that I'm going to like. And then I've got it in this 1 quart mason jar. I've been mixing it up. So this is a little bigger batch than I normally like to experiment with, because these pure blending tobaccos are expensive. All right. What I'm trying to replicate is something like Seattle Pipe Club plum pudding. That's what I'm trying to replicate. So I've got in here, I'm not going to tip it up sideways. I'll bend the camera down. In there, the light's killing it. In there I have 2 1-inch by 1-inch chunks of white oak barrels. They're bourbon from bourbon barrels. They cut them in 1-inch by 1-inch sections. That's soaking in bourbon with some saran wrap over it. These actually came in with my Seattle Pipe Club bourbon barrel aged blends. I picked them out of the tobacco, so I'm rehydrating those. And then what I'm going to do, if I like this blend, I'm going to take these 2, I'm going to let them sit for 24 hours, and then I'm going to take them out of this bourbon that I've soaked, put the saran wrap back over it so it doesn't evaporate. I'm going to dry them off on the outside because I don't want any wet bourbon coming in contact with my tobacco. I don't want any of that at all. All right. So basically what they're going to be is like little hydration blocks. I'm going to put 2 of them in there. I'm going to shake it up. I'm going to let it sit for a week or so. Then I'm going to take them out. If they're dry, I'm going to re-soak them in this bourbon, put them back in there, and I'm going to age that for a month. Right now, I have 4 blends in there that don't know each other yet. They don't know each other yet, okay? Meaning, each piece of ribbon cut tobacco hasn't taken on the essence of the other 3 different types of tobacco that I have in there. So it hasn't really blended. Even though I've blended it, it hasn't sat in there and taken on the essence of each other's properties. And you can speed that up. You can do that, and then you can press it into a crumble cake, or you can, and do that, and then the juices will marry, and that happens a lot faster. So, cheers. I haven't even set something on fire yet. So to make this clear on how the parts work, okay? Let's say I've got 25 parts, okay? So I've got 12 parts Red Virginia, 8 parts Latakia, 4 parts Bright Oriental, 1 part Perique. If I increase my parts by adding, let's say if I added 1 more scoop of Latakia, now all of a sudden I've got to redo my math, because now we're not at 25 parts anymore, we're at 26 parts. So I have to take 7 parts Red Virginia, divide it by 26, which would probably drop me down to from 48 to 45%. Now instead of 8 parts Latakia, I've got 9 parts Latakia because I added 1 scoop of Latakia, which would take me from probably 32% to 35%. And it's going to adjust those numbers up or down depending on what you add. Just kind of wanted to clarify that a little bit. So this blend I just made within the last hour. All right, I wrote the recipe down. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to tape it to the side of the jar so I know what I have in there. It hasn't married yet, and when I say that, there's 4 different blends in here, all right? They haven't had a chance to share their flavors with each other, okay? So it'd be kind of like making an omelet, all right? You pour the milk in, put a couple of eggs in, put some other ingredients in, but you don't really mix it up, all right? And mixing it up is time or pressing it. So we're really not going to be able to experience the full flavor of the final blend until 2 things happen, 3 things. I either age it in the jar, I press it, or I smoke it at least halfway through the bowl. The oils and everything else from all the tobaccos then will marry through fire. So let's start something on fire. I have my beautiful Savinelli, bowl number 626, I think it is. Oh, I'm just too good, yeah. She never lies, all right? let's start it on fire. Let's see what we have. Oh, just off the char light. I'm tasting the Latakia with a little red Virginia backdrop. The reason why I chose red Virginia, you have your bright Virginia and red Virginia. The Virginia plant grows. They take the lower leaves and they cut them off earlier. So the bright Virginia is going to have a higher sugar content, but a much lower nicotine content. The leaves that are left on the stalk that they let grow longer are the red Virginias. Those are darker. They have less sugar, and they also have a much higher nicotine content. All right. And it's more of a full-bodied flavor. So what I'm going for here is a rich English smoky blend that's high in nicotine. I don't love it yet. Go. Oh, there we go. Right now I'm tasting the smokiness of the Latakia. I'm tasting the semi-sweet molasses flavor of the red Virginia. Oh, there we go. Ooh. I might have come across something good. Do I love this blend yet? No. Oh, man. I've been smoking it too hard. Woo! Starting to get a nick at. Now the juices from the tobacco, the smoke, and the moisture from each different blend is starting to come down through. Definitely a strong English blend. We taste just a tiny little bit of a peppery flavor, just tiny, because it's only got 6%, 4% perique in it. We're going to let this bowl rest a little bit. We'll be right back and finish her off. and I'll tell you what I really think. Alrighty, so my final thoughts. Wow, this is like smooth and right out now. This is a great English blend, not to be messed with and smoked like a train. I'm really happy with this blend. I can't wait to take these cubes dry them off tomorrow night, put them in there, shake the blend up, and let it sit for a month. I think that's a great blend, and here is the blend I came up with. Yep, right there. 25 parts. It's got 12 parts of Red Virginia, which is 48%, 8 parts of Latakia, which is 32%, 4 parts of Oriental, which is 16%, and 1 part of Perique, which is 4%. That's my blend that I made tonight. And I think it turned out great. I do. And it smells divine. So that's how I blend my tobacco. Paul the Pipe Guy, over and out.